Hi, I'm Larry Richardson and welcome to Zeniers.com Cooking. This week we're going to make chicken cacciatore using a recipe that's delicious, nutritious, and extremely easy to make. So come on, let's make some. Now our basic chicken cacciatore recipe requires, first of all, of course, chicken. Now you can see that I've selected chicken breasts with the skin on and with the bones on. Now the reason I do that is we're going to bake this chicken before we add it to the sauce. When we actually do add it to the sauce, we will be removing the chicken skin. So that will cut down an awful lot on the fat content of this dish. Next up, we have some white button mushrooms. We have a sweet onion, and we also have a green pepper. And here we have a whole head of garlic, and we will be using most of this. I really love garlic. If you don't, you can certainly cut down on the amount of garlic you use in this recipe. We also have some dried Italian seasonings, and we have olive oil. The last thing that we have right here for this recipe is the Contadina crushed tomatoes. Now I like the crushed tomatoes because they had a little bit more life, a little bit more texture to the cacciatore. This is a giant can that came from Costco. If you want, you can certainly go to a regular grocery store and just buy 2 large cans of crushed tomatoes, and that will be enough for this recipe. And then of course we have egg noodles to put the chicken cacciatore on. I bought the wide egg noodles, just the standard kind, but I do recommend the kind that have the yolk left out, the yolk-free wide egg noodles. So now we're going to get started, and the first thing we're going to do is work with the chicken. Before I bake the chicken, I want to add some garlic and olive oil to it. This coating will help to seal the chicken up while giving it some delicious Italian flavor. So first I'm taking the head of the garlic and breaking out the cloves. I would recommend for the chicken about 4 cloves, especially since we're dealing with 2 chicken breasts. So I took those out, and now I have my garlic crusher. And I really love these garlic crushers. You can see that you just have to put the clove in there, press it down, and the garlic comes out without the paper. So this is a very easy way to prepare garlic for your meal. Once the garlic is crushed, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of olive oil to the mixture. And stir that in. Now I'm moving my cutting board aside because I really don't want the chicken to come in contact with the cutting board. I don't want any cross-contamination. And this way I can work with it right over here. And as you'll see, I'm going to take this mix, put it in a spoon. First I need to perforate the chicken skin a little bit, you can see that. And then I'm just going to put this underneath. And again, this will add flavor to the chicken, and it will also help it to seal up and stay moist when we chop it up and add it to the sauce. So it's going right under those skin folds. And there's no reason to put any of this on top of the chicken skin because we're not going to eat the chicken skin. In fact, none of the recipes that you'll ever find on Zeniers.com will include eating chicken skin or intentional fat of any sort from different cuts of meat. We try to eliminate that as much as we can, and that's what makes these healthy meals. Really spread that around in there. And that should do it. Now I've already preheated my oven to 350, and I'm going to put the chicken on this tray with some foil, which makes the cleanup a lot easier. And the chicken will go in for, I'd say, 35 minutes. And the reason we don't have to overcook the chicken, because normally I would cook these for at least 45 minutes, is that it's going to go into the sauce where it will cook even further. So I'm going to put this in the oven now. And again, that's at 350 for 35 minutes. While the chicken's cooking, we will prepare the vegetables for the chicken cacciatore sauce. So the first thing we'll prepare is the onion. Cutting the ends off and taking the skin, throwing that away. There we go. Now, because it is chicken cacciatore, and I like the vegetables in this to be a little bit chunkier, I am going to cut it at about, I would say about 1/4 inch thickness all the way around the onion. So I'm cutting down like this, at about 1/4 inch apart. And then going the other way. Now, I'm not a professional cook, so sometimes I suspect that the way I cut things drives people crazy, but this has always worked for me, and look, I haven't lost a finger yet. So this is the way it goes. If you have a better way to chop it, please feel free to do it. But our main objective is to make sure that we have good chunky onions. There we go. Now I'm just going to make sure that the onions are uniform. Some of the strips got missed. And there we go. Now I'm going to place the onions directly into our saute pan. We will be sauteing all of the vegetables. This helps to lock in the flavor and also the freshness of the vegetables. If we don't saute and we throw it just right into the sauce, then it's just going to create one big soupy mess. So we always do our sauteing. So there's our onion. Next up, we'll do the pepper. And the ratio of the vegetables that you add to this dish is totally up to you. I'm adding a very large onion and a very large pepper. If you're not a fan of either, then you can certainly cut back on either of these vegetables. But I do have to say that one of the secrets to healthy cooking, healthy eating, and the Zeniers lifestyle, aging well, basically, is to hide and punch up the vegetables every chance you get. Just every dish you make, try to add as much vegetables as possible to it. This is a great trick also if you have people in the house who don't necessarily like vegetables. If you make a tasty dish, a tasty low-fat dish and low-sodium dish, they may not even notice that it's loaded with vegetables. And you don't even have to say the H word, healthy. I did cut the peppers about 1/4 inch thick after cleaning out the core. I should rinse the seeds out of it too. And again, I'm trying to make this kind of chunky because cacciatore tastes good when you pull out little chunks of vegetables. So I'm going probably about another, I'd say another 1/4 inch this way. And this recipe will appear on Zeniers.com. That's X and then Seniors. So it's X Seniors without the S. So just substitute the X for the S.com. And it is tips for exceptional aging. Although I hope people of all ages will give these recipes a chance, and also look at our fitness advice and other ways to keep your body and mind fit. There we go. Now we'll cut the mushrooms into it. And the mushrooms, I've already rinsed them off. I'm just cutting them, I'd say that's about maybe just under an eighth, I guess about an eighth of an inch thick. So I'm going to throw those in with this mix too to be sauteed. And there we have it, the pan full of vegetables ready to be sauteed. Now I'll show you how. First of all, what we'll do is put our stove on medium. So this is the large burner. I have it on medium. And I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of olive oil. And stir the olive oil in. Now the point of the saute is to seal in the flavor and make the vegetables stay together when they're in this very hot sauce. It is not in any way to brown the vegetables. Just as you start to see the onions turn clear, it is time to take this off the heat. Now I did try to stir it as much as possible to make sure that the mushrooms also got sauteed. So I can tell that all of the vegetables look pretty much done. So I'm going to slide this off, turn the heat down to halfway between off and medium, so a quarter heat, and then I'm going to bring the tomato sauce over. Now I did already take this out of the can, and I would like to caution you that when you are removing it from the can, try to use a ladle if you have these really large cans. Otherwise there's a really good chance you're going to get it on yourself, as I did here and there. So just as a warning, don't dump the whole can into a large pan. Try to ladle some out and then maybe scoop some of it out. Now you can see that this pan is almost to the top with that tomato sauce. So I'm going to add the vegetables, but if it turns out that when it's time to add the chicken, which will be done in about another 15 minutes, the saute process took 15 minutes, when it comes time to add the chicken, if I have way too much material, food, inside of this pan, I'm going to have to remove some. So at this point, I am ready to add our vegetable mix. That looks good. And I didn't have dinner yet, so this is actually my dinner that we're making right now. And hopefully you're making your dinner too. Again, this recipe is on Zeniers.com, so if you download it, it will tell you step by step how to make it. Now let's stir in those vegetables. At this point, we'll add our spices to the mix too. I have this dried Italian seasoning bottle, and I'm going to add, I would say because of the size of this, I will add 2/4 teaspoons. I try to be a little sparing with this, at least originally before we can taste the entire mix, because if you add too much, this can be really overpowering. So I like to add just a little, and then if it needs more, I can always add that later on. The other question we have at this point is, how much garlic do you like? I know we have, let's see, I think it was 3 or 4 cloves of garlic on the chicken, which will certainly add to our recipe, but sometimes I like to add a little bit more than that. So I'm going to grab another, let's see, probably the remainder of the garlic cloves, and I will add these whole. It's kind of a surprise to the tongue when you're eating chicken cacciatore to have a whole garlic piece in it. But I do like it that way. I also like sometimes to crush the cloves into some oil, then put it over, I'd say about quarter heat, get it until it's sauteed clear, and then add that whole mixture to the cacciatore. So that's another option, is sauteing the garlic. But for some reason I'm in the mood for garlic chunks. Now while the sauce is heating up, please make sure to put a cover on it. There is a point where these sauces will get hot and they're going to start bubbling, and they're going to throw that hot tomato sauce all over the place. And to keep it off of you and keep your kitchen clean, make sure to put a cover on. And the point here as we're cooking this is not to burn it. So as it's cooking, we have to keep an eye on it and give it a stir every 5 to 10 minutes. That way you won't end up with a lot of carbonized tomato sauce on the bottom. As you can see, after 35 minutes of cooking, I have removed the chicken with the garlic and olive oil on it from the oven. Now it's time to chop it up and get it ready to go into the sauce. As I told you before, the first thing I like to do is remove the skin. When you make chicken cacciatore and you use the skin, especially on the drumsticks or the thighs, you're really adding an awful lot of fat into the mixture. Now you can see that the chicken is a little bit pink inside, but trust me, the sauce will be so hot that it will finish cooking the chicken. And that will also give some of the juices from the chicken a chance to get into the cacciatore sauce and give it some nice flavor. So I'll take each piece of chicken. I just cut it, I'd say about a ½ inch thick, and now I'm just going to take the chicken and cut it into blocks. Don't make the blocks too small or they'll dry out in the mix. And I'm putting this into a side plate so I can add all the chicken at the same time. As I told you before, it's a little dangerous to work with a pan full of tomato sauce with the top off of it, because the tomato sauce will be flying all over the place. If you like your chicken chunks larger, you're certainly welcome to cut them to a larger proportion. I mean, literally you could add whole strips and just you or your guests can just cut into them and make them into bite-sized morsels. So here we have it, a delicious, nutritious, and easy to make plate of chicken cacciatore. Please visit Xeniors.com, download the recipe, and make it. Then come back to the site and let me know what you thought. Did it come out just the way you wanted it? Or did you add a few things that I didn't think of that made it the way you like it? Maybe you want to add a little bit of tomato paste to thicken it up, or maybe you want to add some more vegetables or garlic. Please visit the site Xeniors.com, get the recipe, and I'll see you there.